Hey, Sister Leader community. Look, this is Dr. Karen here, and I have another powerful sister leader who we're going to bring to the forefront. She's no stranger to the sister leaders community, so you may be aware of her, but as always, I'm sure she's going to drop a nugget that you haven't heard before, so you still have to pay close attention. And so tonight on the platform, we have none other than Dr. Jennifer Jones Bryant. Dr. Bryant, welcome to the Sister Leaders Podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Karen. Always a pleasure to sit down with you.
Good. So we're gonna kind of get this started, this conversation between two sisters. And look, she really is my sister. Both. I call her sometimes. She my EAP and all of that. So we really are sisters. And so just if you could give us like your intro, your pitch, or just tell us a little bit about what Dr. Jen do with your many hats that you do in this space called life.
Isn't that the truth, right? Isn't that the truth? So, clients hire me, mid career women hire me to help them to find their voice, give them visibility, and have them to reach within to their untapped potential. And so, my specialty is leadership coaching and mentoring. I've specialized in that for decades. It's been my calling. That is, what many women or many people in the federal government, many clients in the corporate spaces, they knock on my door asking for my expertise and help. And what I love is that I come with I'm multidimensional. I like to say I'm multidimensional because I do have the federal government experience, retired as a at the federal executive level, senior executive service level. And I went from clerk typist to an SES, and then I stayed home, retired for a couple of months, and I was like, look, I still got a lot of spunk in me, a lot of passion. I want to get out here and do some spicy work and make a difference. And then I went to the corporate spaces while also owning my business as an entrepreneur.
I love that. And that is a great segue into how I want to open up this discussion. So, clerk typist to ED. There's a lot in between there, lot in between, some time, some experiences. So, what were some of the key points in your career that kind of helped you elevate yourself through the ranks?
So, number one, you've heard me say this before, and I'll say this to the viewing audience, is that it wasn't just me alone. What I will say is that I got into this position of knowing when I entered the government, I wanted more. And so I found my first lesson on authenticity in terms of getting my first federal government job by riding the subway. And I love to tell this story because people may ask, you got your first job on the subway? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I sure did. So just general conversation, talking to someone else on the subway. And when it was time to get off at my stop, she asked me my name. She asked me where I was going. And I told her I was going to a federal government job fair, and she told me her name and that she was from the Department of Treasury Personnel Office. They used to call it Personnel Office before Human Resource. And she said, just go in, go to the table, put your name down, you're hired.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
So that was
Well,
the start. So
wait a
Dr. Karen,
minute.
that was the start of things. I said, whoa, what? And she said, all you have to do is pass the clerk typist test. And so I went in to do that. And I always tell this story too. I failed the first time because I was so nervous. And then the second time I breezed through it. So then when I went into the government, I saw people in various roles. And I saw this guy sitting in the director role of program services. And it intrigued me because it was a conglomerate of different roles. So you had like a human resource section, you had a training section, you had a budget section, and some may say it's equivalent to maybe the administrative services office, like a administrative officer or chief of staff function, business management office. So I actually took the time and I walked up to here. I'm bold again. Doo, 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 doo. Went and walked and said to him if he mind if I sat down with him because his job seemed so intriguing. And he didn't ignore me. He said, sure, you know and in that moment I said to him, I know I'm here at this point in time in my career, early career, but I would like to know what were the classes you took to get in this role, what did it take, and what does your day look like. And so he told me that, and then I went off and started designing a career plan for myself. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I designed a career plan. And then I started working for various people, sharing my goals and desires. And they started helping me. They started helping me. I went to school at night. In that same government building as I was a clerk typist, I also was a janitor at nighttime because my life circumstances had me in a place in which I was caring for my mom, who had mental illness, and my brother was incarcerated. So I had to do what was necessary. And and leaders saw that, right? Leaders saw that I was about my grind and I did what was necessary. I didn't have to share my story. They just knew that it probably was something there in terms of how I showed up. And then when overtime opportunities came up, leaders would ask me, would you come to my office after hours and, participate in overtime? So I got rid of my after five job in janitorial service, and I have great respect for them. And so that's how it works. So when opportunities happen, leaders came up to me and said, hey, I have a secretary role available, apply. And then when a gentleman came back from overseas, they said they needed someone to support him as an executive secretary, and my name was on the short list. So I talked to them about that. And so Dr. Karen was one opportunity after next, and detail opportunities were provided to me to do special assignments to grow me, to get me prepared for new roles and stretch me. And then I started delivering. I started doing what was necessary. Now, I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but my point from this conversation is that it's about designing your career and how you want to show up and where you're trying to go.
I love that. And what I also heard you to say that it is about communicating what your desires and your professional goals are, because one of the things that I say is that your silence is not a superpower. And nobody can read your mind as to what you aspire to do, what you want to do, or whatever. It has to be communicated. As one who have been in the workforce for decades, such as yourself, I've heard many occasions where people wonder how someone got a position. And I say, well, did you say you were interested in it? And the answer is no. So the importance of you communicating and doing the work, because you talk about those stretch assignments. So everything is not going to come with a paycheck. Every opportunity is not going to come with a paycheck. So doing the stretch assignments and communicating what your desires are. And then that visibility made people put you on that short list for opportunities that just move you up slowly but surely from clerk typist to ED. So let's talk about. I don't know when in your journey that you acquired this nickname. I'm gonna say nickname, but so you tell me how it originated, but when you acquired it. But I read, and I know you to be the Ignite Your Fire leader. And so I can read some things into that because you do drop some nuggets and you be talking fire sometimes. But tell me, can you share with me what the title means and how you embody it, maybe in your leadership styles? What is its origin and all of that? Just Where did it come from? How do you embody it in your style? And we know you are the Ignite Your Fire leader, but tell us a little bit about that.
So, it originated from the fact that I am considered a beacon of light to others. And so I help guide them. I provide them the tools, like I enable them, I equip them, and I enable them to reach within themselves, to pull out their untapped potential by having them to look at their values and their strengths. And there is just a burning desire that happens when you couple all of that together, and people, it's there's a spark in their eyes that come through, and there's a fire within themselves that will shine and come out, and they just start doing it, right? They start blazing the trail. Like for me, it was about blazing the trail, right? Just blazing the trail, putting the fire out there, throwing the bits of information, as you say, the nuggets of information, and just really helping people to reach within their own selves, to know that they can do it by igniting their fire. And so I still do it to this point, on social media. I'll just drop, the fire emoji, right? I'll just drop that little icon, like just bring the fire, you drop in the fire, just keep it moving. Because here's the thing, Dr. Karen, we sometimes have our own battlefield in our own minds, and we focus on all the gaps and the negativities. And so if we only took a moment to really think about the strengths and the values that we bring and really leverage those to grow even further, we would have such much more, back to your word, more impact in the society.
I agree. I agree. So let's talk about some of the people that you work with are mid-level corporate women. And what would you say are the biggest challenges that they have to overcome to get to the next level in their career, as you are coming across and having conversations and maybe mentoring and coaching these individuals?
Um, their personal barriers, the personal stories that they've been told to them, negative stories that have been told to them has been continue to be part of their narrative, and the fact that they're still in this space of proving themselves. And I've been there, right? Constantly proving themselves when they've already been invited to the table. So you've already proven yourself when you're sitting at the table. So this time and space should be about improving yourself. No longer proven, but improving yourself and showing up great. So it's getting rid of those narratives, those negative narratives that's in their mind, or the fact that the imposter syndrome, you've heard that over and over again. Am I supposed to be here? Constantly questioning yourself and actually spiraling out of control because you're feeling like something within yourself is telling you that you should not be there. But you're there because somebody said you should be there, and your skill sets have spoken for each other. So it's just the matter of them believing in themselves and working through, how do we work through building resiliency and bouncing back and say, okay, that was my story in the past, this is my story I'm going to create presently and going forward. So I spent a lot of time on that personal development.
So let's kind of drill down a little bit because I may um maybe I need a little bit of coaching about how I'm thinking about this. So, you are at the table, so you no longer have to prove yourself. You should focus on improving yourself so that you can make a greater impact. And I get that and I understand all of that. I see the marquee. But we know for sustainability, you have to continue to generate results. And so, how do you weave the notion that you don't have to continue to prove yourself, but improve yourself with you also have to generate results which is kind of like proving yourself, or is there a difference? Or tell me, how do you weave the two?
So you have the skill sets already, right? You have the skill sets. You're at that table. And say, for example, you go in there, I'm saying, say it's a board meeting, say it's meeting with senior leadership. You've now said, I'm going in, you're sharing this knowledge. You're saying, I've identified a problem, whatever that problem is. I've identified an opportunity. Here's what the data has shown us, right? Here are the desired outcomes I would like to come of this conversation. And then you walk through whatever actions that you want to take. You got an executive body, it could be non-executive body, but people only retain so much information. So you're hitting maybe your top 3 to 5 actions you want to do, as well as the time frame. And then if there are asks that are there, that you're letting the audience know, like, here are my top 3 asks of you as we are working through these problems or these actions to address the problem and opportunity. So you set the stage, right? You set the stage, and then it's for you, the individual, to get into motion to get results. So if you say you're going to get something done within the next 30, 60, 90-day time frames, then you need to show up with those results. And that means taking your team through getting to the results, or if you're an individual contributor, you doing that hard work and then you letting them know what you've done along the way. Um, which is driving you, the competencies are driving you to the results. And you're not saying, hey, here I am, this is me, I have 50,000 awards, and I have 5 degrees, and this is the reason why I'm here. No, we're not having that conversation. You don't have to prove that you're educated and you got tons of experience and other people recognize that. No, you're there to solve a problem. And so you're going to walk that audience through how you're going to solve that problem.
I love that. I love that. And that is perfect for what I am thinking next. I want to talk about this BRG that you used to work for, this business resource group. And so, what were some of the, it was huge. It was huge. So, let's talk about that number. And then, what are some of the most important initiatives or programs that came out of that?
So I will tell you again, my quote, you're interviewing every day and your work speaks for itself, right? So before I even took on that role, I was actually serving in a different business resource group as a leader of their professional development pillar. And then my name apparently ended up on a short list for to lead this women's business resource group with nearly 24,000 members. And I had to look at my email a few times. I was like, did they write that to me? Right. So, here I was second guessing myself. I'm thinking, okay, I am maybe 3.5 years in the company. I'm sure they could have found someone else to take on this role. And then I said, okay, then why not me? Why not me? Why am I questioning myself?
That's
I've
right. That
I've
part. That
that
part.
part. I've shown results, proven results. So I was like, okay, well, one of my yeses for accepting was this group, and I'm trying to be careful with my words. This group had its brand, it had a sound bite. And so what I asked for is that if I accept this role, I need to bring others who look like me with me. And I'm huge on lifting while you climb. And so I was like, mid-career women, I would love to have them on my leadership team. They can bring it. They can make a difference. So that was one of my orders of business. My second order of business, well, I should say my first order of business was developing the strategy for this business resource group. I developed a 3-year strategy. And then I was like, let me get some folks on our work streams, our pillars to help do this work. The next piece was um, actually bringing our associates along, but we also dealt with a lot of different world events. And there was an issue concerning women's rights and what was the position of the company, and we had to take a different approach. Me and my co-lead, we became a listening arm for our associates to listen to their concerns and equip them with the resources they need. That was another item that we did. And then lastly, we developed, this was on my way out, we developed a new professional development program, whereby we had curated resources for different things, whether it was for competencies relating to judgment, problem solving, communications, and then we incorporated mentorship and some other designs that we did with learning and development. So that's what I did in terms of programming for the business resource group. It was a lot while maintaining a full-time scope in my
Yeah,
role.
and a lot of people don't realize or think about is that's in addition to what you do. And let's say you're 9 to 5. It's not. It's an additional assignment.
Additional assignment, and
Yes, yes.
you're dealing with different people. You still need to show up. You still need to come with the results. But it opened me up to networking, different people. It opened me up to best practices. It was a wonderful experience.
Awesome. So, want to go into a little bit more about your own diversity, in terms of you have worked for federal government and you work for corporate. And I have, of course, worked with employees who have worked with both, and I've actually been worked for a local government and corporate, not federal, but local government and corporate. And there are some similarities and there are some differences. And so, can you just tell us from your experience what the similarities are between maybe leadership and the employees, and then what the differences on starch differences may be, working in those environments for leadership and employees?
So what I will say is that similarities, there are politics in both. And as you rise, the politics get a little more interesting in terms of how you maneuver, how you move, how decisions are made. Um, I feel like it's similar. Like I've gotten lots of decisions made in hallways, right? In networking events, after 5 events, I've gotten decisions made that way. Um, in terms of performance management systems are different. I will say that they're very different. Federal government, you are measured on your own merit, right? You're measured on your own merit. As you go up higher in the federal government, yeah, there may be some comparison with those others who may be at that level across the agency. In corporate, you're calibrated against everybody like in your role and position within the organization, which is tough, which can breed to competition, right? It can lead to competition. Um, there's there are again difference in federal government. I wore heels and dresses and suits and all of that good stuff. In corporate, you can wear jeans and swag. And I'm like, what? So it's still hard for me to do that. I'll do jeans, but I gotta wear like some cute blouse and jewelry and all of that, or blazer, but yeah, you could do that. Federal government, it is hard to get decisions made. I know I talked about the hallway thing, but you still got to memorialize it and put a clearance sheet on it with 20 people to review it, and and eventually it'll get signed off. Um
Yeah.
in corporate, Oh my goodness, that's the innovation and the creativity come about. I can think of a program and I can design it from A to Z or end to end, and I could get that done within a matter of a couple weeks, right? I'll socialize it. Okay, Jen, you're good to go. I have budget, right? Federal government, you got the appropriated dollars, the taxpayers' dollars. You got to make sure you ask for approval if you spend a penny before you spend that penny, right? Corporate, got a corporate card. I have the authority. I have my budget. Long as I manage within, use my judgment, I'm good. I don't have to do a mama may I every 2 seconds. So, so that's some of the, some of the similarities
And
and
some of the differences.
differences. Yeah.
Awesome. So, a few more things I kind of want to touch on is culture and engagement seems to be at the heart of what it is that you do. And so, how do you approach like transforming the organization to ensure that it aligns with core values and kind of promotes inclusion? Because you've haven't used the word inclusion, but you've said some kin words that those who understand the language know that it means inclusion.
Correct. Correct. Um, I tell people like I have a very difficult job because I'm trying to take leaders along the journey. And then I'm also trying to build trust in the system for our associates. And it's hard. Now, what I will say, I have associates at various levels who come and share things with me and know that my role is tangential to the human resource office, but I am like embedded in this, as they would say, a program office, trying to solve the hard problems. And in terms of transformation, the beginning of the transformation is identifying where are our opportunity areas. And that can come from data from qualitative data, quantitative data. It can come from associate sentiments that come out of our various surveys, focus groups, listening sessions. And I talk about part of the transformation of building a resilient culture, starting with the people and investing in the people. So the cool part of my job is the programming that I've designed with my team. So we have mentorship programs that help develop and invest our associates. We have other learning and development opportunities and investment opportunities. We also have the opportunity of meeting with our leadership and saying, here are our core focus areas that we're going to go after. Are we going to walk the talk, right? Are we going to invest, put our money where we say we want to turn this organization around? Here's the other piece that's super pivotal: communication. We got to tell the associates these are the things we're going after. These are our focus areas, and bring them along the journey as well at our all calls, our catch-ups, or whatever type of meetings we have, but to say these are the areas we've identified. How can we work towards what we're doing to work towards a solution, and when we plan to do, and say what we're going to do and actually do it in order to build the trust. That's part of the transformation, is being transparent about these are our focus areas. Don't try to hide them. Say to the associates, we heard you, and here's how we plan to address them. And then check in with the associates, whether it's 90 days, 30 days after you've activated some actions, to see if they're landing. And then the other piece of transformational, where it won't seem like it's temporary, I am huge on let's not keep chasing these employee surveys, right? Because it's very reactive. If we can be proactive and have always on initiatives, always on programming. And I have multi-pronged programming or strategies to address transformation, building a transformational culture. So you kind of touched on it. I lead our diverse inclusion belonging work inside of the organization. So I have a strategy for that. I have learning and development. I have a strategy for that. Um, I have our talent management and performance management piece. So it is holistic viewpoint. These are all topics or areas that associates want to feel secure about. And so I work with other leaders to help to build and design. I can't do it alone. And I don't own the culture alone. And I always tell that to leaders. I don't own it alone. Like you are helping me and you I need your buy-in to make sure that you will do what you need to do. The other piece, Dr. Karen, is that we have to invest in our people leaders because they model the way. They set the example. So it starts with them. If they model the way, teams will come along and do the right thing. That's my belief.
Absolutely. And we need to check in with them as well. Make sure they're okay because leading people can have its ebbs and flows. And so we need to check in with them to see if it's something that we can say or do or partake in with them when they're having that
Yeah.
downward situation, and to pep them up because believe me, as almost 30 years in HR, I know people can take you there.
Oh, they can. They can. And you know what I've been doing, like really, really been doing within this last year or two is really prioritizing me. And because I can't do anything for anyone else without prioritizing myself. And I'm making sure I'm taking the time out for my mental hygiene and taking breaks and really saying like to my team as well as to my leader saying I need to take a break. And I think people kind of like admire that fact because I'm standing on making sure I stay true to who I am because y'all don't want me to go off and
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just talking to someone earlier and I was like, they was like, you never get mad. I said, no, 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 no. I do get upset, but I manage when I get upset because when I do reach that point, it is never in proportion to what have just happened. It is all of the things that I have suppressed over time that has happened. And then I just kind of like, I
explode.
say, yeah, so yeah, it's not that I don't get upset, but I do try to manage it. So let's talk about, and that's a good way to talk about and being aware of yourself and being aware of, our what's going on with us internally. And a lot of the things that you help individuals with is focusing on themselves and recognizing their strengths and what is crucial, which is crucial for their career to be have a self awareness, emotional intelligence, your impact on your ability and your impact on others, as well as how you get yourself into situations, and so others impact on you. So since you focus on that, why is it crucial for us to even have that self awareness for our career advancement?
Because it can serve as a barrier if you don't. It will definitely, because I've had it throughout my career, right? Like, oh, that was a blind spot for me. I had no idea. But it took individuals to be honest with me about those. So now some of the things like I'm not surprised like by my performance ratings or anything like that because I'm talking about it along the way with my leader. And I'm also saying, oh wow, I messed up on that one. And here are the reasons why. So I kind of make it easier for my leader because I'm like, yikes. And it's like, yeah, you kind of did. And then I'm able to make those corrections. But you got to have thick skin. And that's the other thing that I grew, like, as from the self-awareness standpoint, if you are not self-aware and you ask others about some blind spots you have, you got to be able to receive that information. Which can be tough for some people. They don't want to hear it. They immediately go to be having an attitude like, I can't believe it, blah, 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 get on the defense. And I'm like, no, you need to work on that. You really need to work on that.
Absolutely. So that is, I'm going to share with you a what was shared with me in a performance evaluation was an opportunity for development, and I want you to be thinking about, because when you work, it has come up. Something has come up. So I want you to think about a situation that has been discussed with you that was an opportunity for development. So I'm going to share mine. So I had hit all my numbers. So I knew this was going to be a positive conversation because I'm a numbers person and I had already studied my numbers and I knew where I was because I had been monitoring myself all year. So it was nothing they were going to be able to tell me about my numbers. I knew that was. And I was correct. My numbers was intact. It was nothing they could say about my numbers. But there was an opportunity for development. And that came out and it blindsided me. So my boss had said that some people were concerned about me sending emails all times of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm always one when you kind of catch me off guard. So I never speak. I always just let you finish because I don't want to jump in before you finish, and then I end up speaking to half of what you're saying. So I want to hear everything you have to say. So she was saying people were saying that I was sending emails all times of the night. It was bothersome for them. It was invading on their family time and all of that stuff. And so after I thought about how I was going to address it, I said, well, I do send emails all time of the night, but let me explain why. Um, I don't turn my brain off. And so I when something hits me, when I go home, I don't turn off work. When something hits me, I respond to it. It is not my expectation that they respond to it just because I respond to it. And the way I was looking at email is you'll get to it when you get to it. I didn't call them on the phone or anything like that. So it wasn't an immediate expectation. And so I apologize if it was bothersome to the point that it had reached your level, but I am someone who I love what I do. My mind is always working. And so when a situation or a resolution to something that I've been working on hit me, I'm like firing off the email, sending it on to the next level so that they can get it, whatever. And so took that. There's nothing else I could say. I just said, I apologize. I will stop. So then I was talking to my IT friend because my almost 30 years, I have two departments that I'm always going to be friends with, finance and IT. Finance and IT are always, I'm always going to have a friend in finance. I'm always going to have a friend in IT. So I was
He's like,
talking to,
schedule the messages, schedule those messages.
yes, yeah, exactly. So I was talking to my IT friend and he was like, I got you. I got you, sis. All you have to do is schedule it. You mean we can schedule it? He was like, yes. So he showed me how to schedule it. So what would happen? I would write the emails, send, put delayed receipt. And so 8 o'clock in the morning, all of
Oh
my
no.
emails would hit.
Don't
I
let it
did.
be 10 of them.
Yeah, like, yeah, 8 o'clock in the morning is when my emails would hit different people,
Okay. As long as it's
But I
not the
learned,
same
no,
person.
not the same person, different people. And so he taught me how to schedule it. And so
Yeah.
I was able to, deal with that like that. Now, my boss, she dinged me, but she didn't want to ding me. It's like, I'm glad you excited, da 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 da. But I have to bring this to your attention because others has brought it to my attention, and I have to address it. And so she asked me later, like, haven't gotten any feedback. I guess what'd you do? Do you wake up in the morning and send emails? I was like, no, actually, I'll talk to my IT person. He just taught me how to schedule it, schedule it, and boom, she was like, great, you know. But that, and when it first hit my ears, Dr. Jen, it hurt my little heart. It broke my little spirit. Cause I was so excited. And I'm excited about what I do. I don't do much of many things that I don't like doing. So because I like doing, I'm always looking for resolution. And when the resolution hit me, I want to pass it on like, hey, what about this and what about that and stuff. And so, but that did deflate me for a minute until because I felt like my peers were feeling, even after when I was scheduling them, I still felt like my peers felt a certain way about me because I was sending those emails. And so over time, you know, I realized that people don't hold on to stuff like that. Life is just too busy.
They had
You
short
know,
memories. They didn't move.
Yep. And so they had moved on. But yeah, that situation really, and the reason why I bring that up, because to me that was so simple, but it was something I didn't know. I didn't know how to schedule an email. I never had a reason to have to schedule it. I could always just hit send. But that was the time in my career where I needed to learn how to utilize it. And so never had that problem again.
See, you corrected it, right?
Yep, absolutely. And absorbed it when she said it. You know, didn't know how to process it then
In the
because
moment.
yeah, you know, but I figured out. And so what can you name something that maybe you have had a conversation, someone had a conversation with you about, and you said to yourself, I need to look into this?
Yeah, so many. There's so many examples. There's so many examples. I'll tell you one I had in the federal government. The one that I had in the federal government was when I was on a detail, I mean not a detail, but I was acting in a role for over a year as a director, and they decided to bring someone else in to fill the role permanently. I was hot. I was hotter than fish grease. Let me tell you, I had worked 12-hour days, 14-hour days. I was doing just like you, sending messages late, sending them super early. Oh, I gotta work real hard. I'm proving myself. I'm proving myself. Yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I was being I was being micromanagey with my team because I wanted to make sure everything was perfect, everything was right, because I wanted this job. So then when I went in to when the woman told me, that the head of the organization, that I did not get the job and that they were bringing someone else in, I asked for feedback. I said, why? I've done X, Y, and Z. I'm not understanding. And she said, it's your leadership. And so I asked for specifics. She couldn't really give me specifics, but it was feedback that she had gotten from other folks. So I said, okay, let me go on my own homework assignment and find out what's going on. So I did some digging, and I found out there were some areas like the emails, like you mentioned, like, just working really long hours, expecting that of my team to respond after hours. Um, the fact that uh, I really was putting demands on my team, my communication with them. It was just a whole list of things that I needed to work through. And the person who they wanted to come, like that same day, they told them they weren't coming. So they asked me to go back into the role. And then the other piece too, Dr. Karen, when I was told I didn't get the job, I kind of like told her off, then went home and wrote an email and sent it. And it just, you're supposed to not hit send. I hit send. Not thinking about the consequences, right? I hit send, and didn't have a mentor or anything like that. So yeah, that wasn't good. But then she called me and asked me if I could step back in the acting role while they advertise. So I still had to like say, what? I'm still not gonna get the job. But little did I like, with me responding that way and reacting that way, it's like, well, I don't
That
know
was
what type of
adding.
Yeah, that was adding like
Yeah.
proving them right. Like, why
Hmm.
did I do that in retrospect? But I was able to learn from this guy, learn leadership and different ways of handling things so that when the new head of the organization came, he saw my work. I didn't speak bad about anyone. I said, just allow me. I said, I'm pretty sure you heard some things about me. I'm not going to speak ill will about anyone. Just allow me to show you my results. And he saw it in 6 months, and he was like, "I'm not gonna advertise for this job. I'm just gonna put you in there permanently." And so that was a huge lesson on feedback. So, like yourself now, when I give feedback, as much as this thing, I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
and even sometimes, Dr. Karen, I have to take a couple of days to process.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I am a better Karen when I do take a couple of days to
Yes,
process.
yes, yes. You said that right. Yes,
Yeah, because I
yes.
look at it from all different angles.
Different
I find
angles.
when I respond too immediate, sometimes I have a singular focus of how I'm looking at it as opposed to a holistic focus, which is maybe the person who told me is looking at it from a holistic standpoint. And so,
It's
yeah,
not
absolutely.
personal. It is
Yeah,
not
it's
personal.
never personal.
It's never, and I'm glad I just said that. It's never personal. And that's why we get on the defense because we automatically like, oh, you must don't like me. Oh, this is the reason, blah, blah. It's about work, baby. You get paid every 2 weeks. It's about work, results. This is a business. And so it's not personal, like you said, it's a holistic. And the other piece too is being empathetic and looking at it from their perspective and in their
Yep,
shoes. And it'll
yep,
give you a better reason to respond and just acknowledge, like, I acknowledge what you said.
yep.
I heard you. These are the things that I put in place, so to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Yeah.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, I have before you tell the sister leaders community all of the wonderful ways they can stay in contact with you if you got anything new going on or whatever. I want to talk about legacy, and although we're, still in the workplace, still creating legacy, we've had such a substantial career so far that we got some things that we can look back on. And so as you're looking back on your career, what legacy do you hope to leave behind? Specifically, women striving to break through the corporate glass ceiling. What type of legacy do you want one to think of when they think about how they've come across you?
I will say, let your big why be bigger than your ego. And that it's not about you alone, right? It's about lifting while you climb and leaving that legacy behind, right? Leaving that legacy of helping the current generation and your future generation and serving as a mentor, pulling that sister aside. And sister could be, as you say, sister. It doesn't matter what color you are, is pulling that woman aside and say, I see you, and encouraging her. I see you. I hear you, providing the visibility opportunities of that woman's work, that person's work. I help guys too. Don't get me wrong. It's just that my target market is is the woman population. And just really being present for the current generation in order for them to be prepared for future generations. So your big why has to be bigger than your ego.
I love that. I love that. So, how can a sister leaders community stay in contact with you? You got anything coming up? Got books, events, anything that we can support you? I know you're speaking on the Sister Leaders Conference, and so everybody knows that they need to be there. But what do you have going on? And what is your community called?
Oh my goodness. So I have Reaching Within and empowermentjourney.com. You can reach me there. I also have my Step into Leadership Greatness Foundation Inc., and more of that will be following in the next few weeks. I'm doing that in stages and phases. Like everything does not have to be done overnight. So it's pacing myself in that way. But you're absolutely right. I'll be at the Sister Leaders conference in October as a speaker, and I'm going to be talking about how folks can harness their superpower for more, and showing up to get more. I'm actually going to be speaking at Dr. Teresa Mosley's conference for the Peace Passion Summit. I'm excited about that in September. It's a lot of goodness happening. Then I will be in, I'm kind of thinking about my schedule. In November, Women of Heart Awards, I'll be in London. Um, I'll be there, speaking there as well. And so it's a lot of goodness that's happening. I can't wait to see how this year is going to end. But I told myself this year that I was going to do a lot of pacing and that I was going to be intentional about my buckets. And so me coming first, right? Coming first, prioritizing my self-care, my family, and then working on everything else. Yep.
I love that. And y'all heard that. This sister is international, baby. We international. No borders over here. No
No
borders over
borders, no
here.
walls. I'm going way beyond that. And that's how, in order for you to expand, that's how your mind has to go. I mean, I just finished serving as a forward author and executive strategic advisor for Dr. Mary J. Huntley's book, Trust the Process, Reap the Harvest. It's a good book. You gotta grab it.
Yes.
It's a lot of powerful stories in there. Yep.
Love it, love it, love it. So we have reached the close of this podcast. And of course, you know, we drop every Monday a new podcast. And so we are excited to have you. And I will be remiss if I didn't plug the Sister Leaders Conference that's coming up October 4th and 5th. We are going to be at the Rivers Casino in Portsmouth, Virginia. Look, we're going to be live stream and virtual. So what you got? What you got? All of your excuses have just like fluttered away. So whatever way that you choose to be in partnership with us, we would love to have you there. We love to stay connected. Powerful people like Dr. Jen are going to be taking the stage, sharing their nuggets. You know, some of these people you may not even get close enough to be able to pick their brain. And so for them to stop by the Sister Leaders community and drop their wisdom is priceless, priceless. And so you make sure you bring your pen and paper so that you can take notes for that. And so again, I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. Of course, I am the founder of the Sister Leaders community. And so until the next podcast, bye.
Bet on yourself.
That's right.